Hey guys, Crispy Bacon here with my first build of Shadowkeep. This build is going to be a Hunter hand cannon build, and I call it High Noon. Let's take a look. As always, let's first take a look at the items required for this build so you can go ahead and start building it yourself. The cornerstone weapon for this build is going to be Eriana's Vow, which is an exotic hand cannon that any Season Pass owner can get for free at the beginning of Shadowkeep. While those who haven't bought the Season Pass will need to get their season rank up to 35 before they can acquire this gun. Eriana's Vow is the first hand cannon in Destiny history to use special ammo instead of primary ammo, and it has a few interesting exotic perks. The first perk is Looks Can Kill. This weapon fires special shield-piercing ammunition, and it comes with a scope. We'll talk a bit more about that shield-piercing ammo later in the video. The other perk is Death at a First Glance. Bonus damage when aiming down sights on the opening shot of an attack. This bonus is preserved if the shot deals precision damage or strikes an elemental shield. Eriana's Vow is an outstanding exotic in its own right, but it's when it interacts with the rest of this build that it really shines. For your primary slot, you're going to want to use your favorite legendary hand cannon. At the moment, I'm using a 10 paces with triple tap and rampage, and it's also got the unstoppable hand cannon perk, but we'll talk a bit more about that later. For your heavy slot, you're free to use your favorite legendary heavy weapon, mainly the one that you would use for DPS. At the moment, that remains my Swarm of the Raven with spike grenades, but hopefully that'll change up pretty soon. For your stat distribution, you're going to want to prioritize mobility and intellect over all of the others. You might be wondering why my stats are not up to par here and why I'm wearing a full blue armor set, and that's simply because I didn't want to take the time to find all of the random rolls to get my stats up to par. I'm also wearing this blue armor set because I wanted to get this idea out to you all as fast as possible, and I really don't main Hunter at all. I'm still a Titan main, but hey, I pulled this armor off pretty good, didn't I? That being said, there are a few specific mods that we'll want to put on each piece of gear in our setup. On our helmet, we'll want precision weapon targeting. On our arms, we'll want enhanced hand cannon loader. On our chest, we'll want unflinching light arms aim. On our legs, we'll want light arms dexterity. And on our cape, we'll want the special finisher mod. All of these mods are meant to increase the base stats of hand cannons, and that's great since that's what we'll mainly be using with this build. The special finisher mod is going to feed us special ammo every time we use a finisher on an enemy, which is perfect because we'll mainly want to be using Eriana's Vow while we use this build. This special finisher mod does use our super energy every time we use a finisher. That being said, this build has a way to keep our super energy gain consistent throughout an entire activity, but we'll talk a bit more about that later. Now comes the important part, the exotic legs we're using. With this build, we'll want to use Lucky Pants, which up until this point have been one of the most laughed at exotics in the game, but today that all changes. See, up until this point, hand cannons have only been a primary type weapon, and usually it's best practice to use a primary type, a special type, and a heavy type. And with this new addition of a special ammo hand cannon, the whole meta changes just a bit. We can now comfortably use two hand cannons without sacrificing the higher DPS of a standard special type weapon like a sniper, a shotgun, or a fusion rifle. And what this means is that the exotic perk on Lucky Pants is finally useful. It's called Illegally Modded Holster. Precision hits load one round to the chamber of stowed hand cannons. Hand cannons ready faster and are more accurate immediately after swapping to them. What this means is that when we are getting precision hits with our primary type hand cannon, Eriana's Vow is being automatically reloaded for each precision hit. Now this is perfect because the main flaws of Eriana's Vow are its low reload and handling speed, but Lucky Pants effectively negates these problems altogether. This leads to a really nice combat rhythm where you're shooting one hand cannon and reloading the other, so you can constantly keep shooting and switching between your two guns. But the synergies do not end there. We're actually going to be using Bottom Tree Gunslinger, known as Way of the Sharpshooter, which happens to be my favorite Hunter subclass. The main perk we're here for is Practice Makes Perfect. Enter a trance with each precision hit, reducing the cooldown of your super. So while we are hitting headshots and constantly reloading both of our hand cannons, we're also proccing the super regen ability from the Gunslinger subclass, which makes our super come back much faster. This is the perfect counterpoint to our special finisher mod, which drains our super every time we use a finisher to get that special ammo, and this perk allows us to keep our super regen pretty consistent. And if that wasn't enough for you, the final synergies lie within the Eye of the Gatelord's seasonal artifact. The first perk to talk about quickly is the Enhanced Hand Cannon Loader mod, which you might have seen on the arms that I'm using with this build. This serves as the backup plan in case we really need to reload our hand cannons manually. This just serves to speed up the process and make sure that if we're out of ammo with any of our hand cannons, we can use the other one and reload it all by itself. Just to clarify, one thing that still confuses a few members of the Destiny community, when you unlock these perks within the Gatelord's Eye seasonal artifact, it actually only unlocks mods, which you can then put on your weapons and your gear. So these perks are not automatically applied to your character. You need to take these mods that you unlock and place them on individual pieces of gear. With that out of the way, let's talk about the other more important mod that we're going to be unlocking. This mod is called Unstoppable Hand Cannon. Aiming down sights loads a powerful explosive payload that staggers unshielded enemies, strong against unstoppable champions. This mod will be going on your primary hand cannon, and this whole unstoppable champions concept is a bit new, so let me explain. In the new higher rank Nightmare Hunts, as well as the high rank Nightfalls, there will be new enemies called Unstoppable Champions and Barrier Champions. Having mods such as Unstoppable or Anti-Barrier can actually make your weapons much stronger against these enemy types, and usually it's only going to be on one of your guns at a time. But where this build's final synergy lies is within the exotic perk for Eriana's Vow. This weapon fires shield-piercing ammunition. What this means is that not only is this gun great against normal enemy shields, but it also contains the Anti-Barrier hand cannon perk available through the seasonal artifact by default. That being said, we get both the Anti-Barrier hand cannon perk as well as the Unstoppable hand cannon perk with this build without having to sacrifice a special weapon. So it's clear to see that this build is going to be extremely useful when doing high rank Nightmare Hunts as well as those high rank Nightfalls. And when you're using Eriana's Vow in PvE, just remember to focus on using it for shielded enemies as well as mages and bosses, and always remember to go for the head because then you'll retain that extra damage. So this build is incredible in PvE, and we've talked about it for a long time now, but what about PvP? Well, there's not much to say besides that it's fantastic. With this build, you can shoot an enemy in the head with Eriana's Vow, switch immediately to your primary hand cannon because of Lucky Pants, and finish the enemy off immediately. For me, this was leading to consistent kill times of around 0.6 seconds, which is pretty good for the current meta. This build really shines at medium ranges, but with Eriana's Vow, you can actually reach into Pulse Rifle and Scout Rifle range because of the absolute powerhouse that it is. The Vow is also very good at shutting down active supers. After the Shadowkeep nerf to active super damage resistance, Eriana's Vow really shines as one of those weapons that if you get a headshot can shut down a super almost immediately. Needless to say, I had a lot of fun using this build in both PvE and PvP. I would highly recommend giving it a try because it is just a playstyle that really gets addicting once you try it out. Before I go, I just want to say thank you all so much for the continued support. Honestly, the main reason I do this is just so I get to have these great conversations with you all about Destiny and about these builds. So if you want to continue these conversations, you can feel free to join up on the Discord. And if you want to watch me figure out these builds live, feel free to follow me on Twitch. We've been doing some fun events lately, and I actually gave away $60 to charity, as well as $30 to a random follower the other day. So we might be doing some fun stuff along the road. So as always, thank you all so much for watching, enjoy Shadowkeep, and have a good one.
I think they're trying to contain the Red Legion.
They have
We thank you, Guardian, and we will never forget.